Hi, and welcome to MOE 101. This presentation will provide a high-level overview of the IDEA B LEA MOE review process from beginning to end. Let's get started. This is the standard TEA disclaimer stating the intent of this presentation is to provide general information and an overview of our process. This presentation does not constitute legal advice. In this presentation, I will discuss what LEA MOE is, the compliance review process, the data used to calculate preliminary reports, the calculation tool an LEA can use to predetermine their compliance status, the LEA options once the preliminary reports are released, the exceptions workbook, uploading your exceptions documents into the TIL application, and our overall process timeline. Maintenance of effort, also known as MOE, is a federal regulation that requires LEAs who received IDEA B funds to maintain the same level of state and local spending as they did in the previous year. Whatever you spent last year in state and local, you need to spend this year, and it's a comparison of the 2 years. We use TSDS PEMS data to determine compliance for any LEA that receives IDEA B federal funding. And there are 4 separate tests we use to determine that compliance, and each LEA only has to pass one of the 4 tests in order to be compliant. This is our compliance review process. I have broken the process into 3 different parts. The first is the preliminary compliance review, where we gather the TSDS data to calculate the report, and the LEA has the option to use the calculation tool on our website to predetermine their status prior to the release of the report. Once the preliminary report is released, then an LEA, if an LEA fails at least one of the 4 tests, they have the option to submit exceptions. Once the exceptions are submitted, reviewed, and approved, we then forward that information on to be incorporated into the final report. If your final report shows that you are non-compliant, you will have to submit a refund to the agency of your lowest efficiency amount from the 4 test. We use a variety of data sources to calculate an LEA state and local spending. To get an in-depth detailed version of our data sources, you can check out the data sources document on the MOE website, and the link in the presentation should work. On the website, you can also find the calculation tool that an LEA can use to input the data sources to predetermine their compliance status, and that calculation tool will get you within $1 of what your preliminary report is going to say. The calculation tool includes an instructions tab and a tab to input your data sources. There are 2 different calculation tools on our website. One is for use by ISDs, and the other is for use by charter schools. The difference in the 2 calculation tools is the way the local expenditures are collected and calculated. Once preliminary reports are released, an LEA has 3 options. The first option, you can accept the results and no action will be required from the LEA. Your second option is you can submit exceptions to bring your LEA into compliance. These exceptions must be submitted within 10 business days of the release of the preliminary reports. And a few uncommon responses are submitting a PEMS error if you feel your LEA has reported data incorrectly, or requesting an alternate methodology. We don't see these last 2 options very often. The exceptions workbook contains several tabs. The first is instructions on how to complete the report workbook. The second is a certification which needs to be completed and submitted separately. The next are the 5 allowable exceptions. Each exception has their own tab for completion within the workbook. And the last tab is the MOE voluntary reduction, which you have to apply for, and there is a list of eligible LEAs on our website. 3 things are required when submitting an exception. You'll need to submit the certification, the workbook, and the support documents to validate your exception request. All exceptions follow the same general concept. What happened in the previous year under Fund Code 199 and PIC 23 that didn't occur in the current year, causing a decrease in state and local spending. Follow these steps to upload the required exception documentation into the TEAL application. And this is the timeline we operate by. Preliminary reports are typically released in late March with 10 business days to submit exceptions. During April and May, we review what was submitted and reach out to any LEAs who may need to correct something or submit additional documentation. And final result reports are posted in July in the TIL application GFFC. Thank you for tuning into my short presentation. Any questions or comments can be sent to us at compliance@tea.texas.gov. Thanks again.